Hi scholars! Thank you for joining me for today's art lesson. Today we are still talking about Mr. Robert Indiana, but we are going to talk more about his sculptures today, okay? So before we start learning about his sculptures and what sculptures are, we are actually going to talk a little bit about what we learned on Monday. So on Monday, we learned that Robert Indiana was born in 1928. And he was born in Indiana, so that means he was born here in the United States. And he was an American painter, and he made sculptures. So he was an artist for his entire life, and he lived all the way to be 91 years old. So he had a long and happy and very artistic and creative life. So scholars, now we know that Robert Indiana created so many beautiful paintings. He's actually standing in front of one of his most famous paintings right here in this picture. His most famous painting is the one that says love. It says L-O on the top and then V-E on the bottom. And it was super bright colors, people just went crazy for it, and he didn't know that it was going to be famous. But after people said that they just loved it, he decided to turn it into a sculpture. So today we are going to talk about sculptures and how we can use just regular stuff to make our own sculptures. Okay, scholars? So let's get started. So scholars, this right here is the love sculpture that I was telling you about. We saw it in our video on Monday, and if we remember, this sculpture is huge. So it says L-O-V-E, it spells love. It's so big, scholars. It's like 10 of Miss Quinones put together. It's so tall, it's really wide, and it's in Philadelphia. So if you ever take a trip to Philadelphia or somebody you know is from Philadelphia, you can ask them, hey, have you seen the love sculpture from Robert Indiana? Maybe they have, and that would be super fun to talk to them about. So scholars, this is an example of a really big sculpture, but sculptures can look like so many different things. They don't have to have letters. They don't have to be huge. They just have to be 3D pieces of art. Okay, so let's talk more about what do we see whenever we have a sculpture. So scholars, if you've never seen a sculpture before, a sculpture is a piece of art that is not flat. Can we repeat after me? A sculpture is a piece of art that is not flat. Okay, it is not flat. We can even go like this when we say not flat to make ourselves a little reminder. So a sculpture is a piece of art that is not flat. That means that it can be big, it can be a medium size, it can be a small size, it can be made of so many different things, and all we need to know is that a sculpture is not flat. It's not going to be flat like a drawing. It's not going to be flat like a painting, okay? So sculptures, we need to know that they are not flat, and they can be made of so many different things, okay? If you can see this one from Robert Indiana, this one is made from aluminum. Aluminum is a really hard and tough material. It's like silver, it's like tin foil. If you've ever seen tin foil like in the kitchen around your food, it's like that, except imagine tinfoil like 100 times tougher, and that's what aluminum is. So Robert Indiana's sculpture is made from aluminum, but they can also be made of things like clay and Play-Doh, just like this lion, or they can be made of paper. So that's what's so cool about sculptures, is that you just move them and manipulate them and kind of get them just right until you're happy with them. All right, scholars, so let's look at some stuff that you can find or that lots of people use to make their own sculptures. So scholars, sculptures can be made of almost anything. We're gonna look at a few examples here, but with each example, you can see that I put down the different things that you can use, okay? So let's look at this first one. This is actually a giraffe. This is a sculpture of a giraffe. It's not that big, but it is pretty tall. So it's probably like this tall or maybe a little bit bigger. But this is made from cardboard. So all they did is like they took a box, they cut it up, they did whatever they needed to, they glued it together, and then at the end they painted it so that it would be more artistic, so it would be more colorful. Okay, scholars, so you can use regular things like cardboard. You can also use other regular things like paper or construction paper. So this person, what they did is they crumpled up paper, they twisted it, they scrunched it up. all the way until it looked like a lion. And then afterwards, they took like tissue paper, like the kind that you put in birthday bags, they cut that up so that it would look like the lion's hair was coming out. So that's a really, really cool idea. So that also shows you your sculptures do not have to be made of just one thing. You can take things like regular paper and tissue paper and put them together to turn your sculpture into something awesome. Okay, scholars? This little boy is working on a sculpture made of pipe cleaners. So if you've ever seen pipe cleaners, they're these colorful things that can twist and turn any way you want them. And what they have is like a little wire that lets you twist and turn it. And they're bright, they're super, super colorful. So this one is not painted. It's just the pipe cleaners that he's changing and mixing around. And since they already have such a cool color, he doesn't need to do anything else to them. This last one up here, this elephant is made from tin foil. So remember how I was talking about tin foil? It's usually something that you see in your kitchen. So this elephant is made from tin foil, and tin foil is really flimsy. So whenever you see tin foil, it comes in like a little roll. You roll it all out over food and other stuff like that, and then you cut it. So you can cut tin foil just like paper. You can scrunch it up so that it looks something more like this elephant, or you can even twist it all the way until you're happy with a sculpture like this. So that's all this person did. They did not paint this elephant. They did not use anything else. All they used was tin foil and moved it until they were happy with it. Okay, scholars? This page also has some other things that you can find in your house that you can use for sculptures. So some of my favorites, I really like this sculpture of the drum set. This is a really tiny sculpture, and we know that it's tiny because it's made from cans. So like soup cans, fish cans, tuna cans, other stuff like that. That's what it's made of. So they took the can lids and they made all the symbols at the top. They took the bigger recycled cans, they turned it into the drum set on the bottom. Then they put them on these little pieces of wire so that it would all stand up like a real drum set. So I think that's such a clever way to use just regular everyday things. This sculpture at the top is kind of similar. So this is made from recycled bottles. And if you've ever seen like soda bottles or water bottles and stuff like that that get recycled, all they did was they took those bottles and they took green ones. So they picked green bottles on purpose. Then they put them in like a flower pot, and then they just turned them in, they decorated them a little bit more, and that turned them into these recycled bottle plants. So I think that's such a cool idea. That's something so cool that I would be so proud of inventing. Scholars, you can also use regular stuff that you might find in your kitchen, or things you might find that like are going into the recycling, or things that maybe you're about to throw away. So you can also use stuff like popsicle sticks. Popsicle sticks are super cool because they have that funny shape, but you can also draw on them. So like the cans and the bottles, those are really hard to draw on. But the popsicle sticks, those are just made of wood. You can use markers, you can use paint, and it's gonna change their color. So I think popsicle sticks is a great, great idea for this. Also, scholars, if you have Play-Doh or you have some kind of other clay, Play-Doh and clay are great, great tools for sculptures, because Play-Doh and clay, you know, can move any way that you need them to. And what's so cool is that you don't need to paint these either. So they usually come already with their regular colors, and you can just combine the different colors to get something cool like this. This last one is actually made from recycling too. This last one is made from paper bags. So if you've ever seen like the paper bags that they give out here at lunch, like those brown bags, or if you've been to the store and you've seen just those plain brown bags, that's what this tree is made out of. So what's so cool about paper bags is that when you twist them, they usually stay like that. So this person, they twisted and twisted their paper bag, and then at the end of it, it ended up looking like branches. So they were able to make their tree trunk just from twisting. They were able to make their branches for this tree. So see, scholars, you can use so many different things. They're just around your house, and you can make such cool sculptures out of them. So these are some great, great examples if you ever need ideas. All right, scholars, so for your turn today, I want you to tell me, if you could make a sculpture, any sculpture in the world, it can be huge, it can be little, it doesn't matter. But if you can make a sculpture, what would you make it out of? All right, what would you use to make that sculpture? So if you decide, I want to make a huge sculpture, or I would love to make a huge sculpture like Robert Indiana, well, let's think. What do you need to make that huge sculpture? All right, I just want you to tell me what you would use it out of. So even if you don't have the stuff in your house, that's okay. Use your imagination. Me, I don't have any tinfoil. I don't have any aluminum at my house, but that's okay. I would want to use aluminum, so I can say, if I could make a sculpture, I would use aluminum. Or if I could make a sculpture, I would use Play-Doh. If I could make a sculpture, I would use paper bags, okay? So anything, even if it's something that we didn't look at today, I want you to choose just anything that comes to mind and tell me what you would make for a sculpture with it, okay? All right, scholars, you know the drill for turning things in. You can use Flipgrid or you can use Google Classroom. If you need the Flipgrid code, you can pause the video right here and you can get your code, or you can just check your Google Classroom and it's in a little orange picture on the assignment. Okay, scholars? So don't forget, if you could make any sculpture in the world, what would you choose to make it out of? I'm so excited to see how creative you guys get with this one. All right, scholars, I'll see you next time. Bye.